Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I am doing some playtime experiments with this new paper that I got. It's Stonehenge Aqua Cold Press Black. It is black watercolor paper, 300 GSM or 140 pound. This is a pack of 8 by 10. I really like what it says on the front. It says, "It's time to rethink everything. Instead of building up shadows, you build up light. Welcome to an exciting new world where watercolors, acrylics, or pencils transform negative space into positive. Day is night, black is white." I thought that was pretty cool. But anyway, yes, it's watercolor paper. So that means it is an absorbent paper. It's heavy. It has a little bit of surface to it, but instead of being white, it's black. And I thought, how strange, because, you know, most watercolors are purported to be translucent. So how could you possibly use watercolor on a black paper? If it's translucent, it won't show up, right? Well, you know, I've been all month experimenting with different palettes of watercolor, and the ones that I have that are expensive, nice watercolors that granulate, you know, like Daniel Smith and M. Graham and those are all very translucent. But I do have some palettes, the Kiritaki, Gamzi Tambai, the koi ones, what are they called? I think they might be made by Sakura too also. Anyway, and then these Arteza ones, and I made my own palette, but I have 60 colors. This is just 24 of the 60. These all seem to be having some of the colors in them be more opaque. So I cut up a piece of the watercolor paper, and I ended up getting 2 card fronts and 2 ATCs out of it. And then I had a couple scraps left over from that, and I decided to test out these 3 palettes and use them on the black watercolor paper to see what I get. Because, you know, I think a good clue is that if your watercolor palette comes with white, then it's probably one of these ones that has more opaque colors in it. And what makes a watercolor opaque? Well, it's filler. So if you have filler, then you will have a more opaque watercolor. That's just the simple way to say it. That being said, there are some of the more expensive, high-quality watercolors that also are opaque. And in that case, it's the pigment. It's what they've made it out of. Some are made out of things like gemstones and minerals, and some of those might have opaque qualities. And I did not test my fancier ones on the watercolor paper yet. I'll probably do that eventually. But I wanted to make some stuff. I always need thank you cards and ATCs and tags to send to people who donate to my channel, and I'm actually low on thank you cards, and so I figured I'd make a couple while I was doing these experiments. Because why sit there and swatch when, you know, I do need probably to swatch at some point, but that's not fun for me. I don't enjoy swatching. That's just boring. Boring, and you get your water all dirty and then you have to clean it. It's just ugh. So I decided instead to make projects while I was messing around with these. And I started out with the Gamzi Tambai ones at the beginning, and I did a wash. I did a wet and wet wash across the top of an ATC here to see what kind of sky you could get. Would it granulate out? What would it look like? Would you be able to see it? And I used some of the like kind of light turquoise teal color and then some of the darker teal color, and blended that together and made kind of a mountain shape. And then I added some of the burnt sienna color and some of the raw umber color to try to get some hills, kind of making a landscape looking situation on my first ATC. And I need to let that dry before I can put more layers on. So I moved to another one. This one I was just messing around with colors and shapes, making swirls and lines. And I used some blue and some yellow, orange, red, green, just, you know, the brighter colors out of this koi set, which is I think it's a 24 color travel. Is there 24 there? Yeah, there's 24 colors. This is a travel set. This one I've had so long. I'm probably never going to use it all the way up. And I think it's a really high quality set, but it does, again, have that opacity. And I'm not sure I'm mad at that because I'm a mixed media artist. I think I probably like opacity better than translucence. Um, of course, when you're doing real watercolor, real true watercolor, you want those beautiful, the ones that granulate and wash out into these beautiful washes. These behave more like a watery acrylic. So, it's all about experimentation and learning, and that's what I'm doing today. So you can come along with me and find out how things work. I decided to try some wet on wet to start out with here, so I'm just starting with one of the card fronts. This is a 4 inches by 5¼ inches, so I can make it into an A2 card. And so I made some petals on there, which you couldn't see because it's water on black watercolor paper. And then I'm adding in some of these. I decided that these work the best, I think. The Kuretake Gamzi Tenbai Japanese colors. And someone told me in the comments, and so I will explain it to you. I don't have any swatch or colors for this. And apparently they do exist out there on their website. So you could swatch them and have the color names. But someone told me that they're based with honey, which is the same as the imgrams. Instead of having like what's that stuff called? Wow, it'll come to me in a minute. Gum arabic, there we go. A lot of watercolors are bound with gum arabic, which is something you can also glue prosthetics onto your face with. I used to be a makeup artist, so that's what I think of when I think of gum arabic. But anyway, these are bound with honey instead, so that's the stabilizer. And so when you get them nice and wet and juicy, they really do have a creamy consistency. And I did spray all my pans before I started, and then I sprayed them again when I opened them to get them nice and wet so that I get a good fluidity on the colors. So the first part I did put wet and wet, and I decided it didn't make any difference. This paper does absorb like a watercolor paper because that's what it is. So I just decided to continue on with mixing a lot of water with my colors and making them fluid and then painting them on. I did notice that in all the sets, the blue colors don't really work. They're too translucent and they don't seem to have anything. With the case of the lighter colors like this light teal and the light blue, which seem to be probably blended up with lighter, titanium or something, the blues just blend into the black and you can't hardly see them, so it wasn't really worth it to do the blues. Then I thought to myself, well, duh, I'll get out my palette and I'll blend the white with the colors, and then I'll end up with lighter versions of the color and it will show up on the black. So towards this end part, that's what I was doing, is lifting some of the white out of the pan, putting it on my plastic, and then mixing it with the magenta and the orange, and also I think I did the purple at some point. And I'm just continuing to play with this, make petals as I'm going. If something is too dark, I went over it with one of the lighter colors to make it stand out more from the background, because the point is to have the pattern stand out. Also, something interesting about the honey-based watercolors is they dry shiny. So this one definitely has shiny, glossy finish to the color when it's dried. The glossiness does not dull down and soak into the paper like some of the other watercolors. Interesting stuff. When I bought these several years ago, I bought them because other people were using them and I wanted to try them, and didn't really think about any of the learning portion of what I was actually using. I was just playing with it and messing around with it, and not really caring that much. In the Japanese traditional colors, there are metallics as well. And there's a metallic gold, a metallic bronze, and a metallic silver in this set. And they are opaque and pretty. So pretty on the black paper. Let me tell you, they look gorgeous on the black paper. So my next card, I used a lot of the silver, but I guess I'm moving back to one of the ATCs. I'm putting my little cactuses on this ATC that I started with the washes in the background. I would say that the more water you use in the watercolor, the more you blend it with water, the less opaque it is. So doing washes on the black watercolor paper is probably just kind of silly because you're washing out the color. So there's nothing for it, just to show up on the black. It's just probably not the best plan. But that sky did turn out pretty. It looks like a nighttime sky, and I put the moon. And then, just leaving the black paper in the back to make that one mountain makes it look as if it's far away. It's a silhouette. And then, putting a little bit lighter one and then a more light one. And then on the bottom for the sand, I put that bronze color. And I did actually end up going over the moon with the bronze color too. It's really pretty. Of course, I like coppery colors. And so that was really, really pretty. I think it would be fun to do the thing that I did with the last card with the bronze instead of the silver. But I did it with the silver. This was a lot of fun, just, messing around on a morning, trying to make something with black watercolor paper. I am going to try another experiment with stencils and watercolor to see if I can make some interesting patterns on this paper as a background. This paper would make a good substrate because it's heavy. So I probably won't use it for collage material because it's too heavy. And I don't like to glue down thick paper, but I think it would make a nice substrate for some of the stuff I plan to do next month, which is Abstract August. If you guys haven't heard yet, I'm doing Abstract August. I've made a set of prompts for you guys to use in Art Joy of Sharing, and you can use them or not. And I'm going to do Abstract all next month because I'm obsessed with it right now. So with this one, I am using that silver, like I said, from the Gamze Tam by Kuretake colors. And I painted on with the size, I think this is a size 2 round brush, so, a plant, leaves and stems and kind of fat leaves. I don't know what kind of plant that would be, but I painted it with the whole thing with the silver first. And it actually looks pretty with just the silver. I could see doing something like this for a holiday card. If you wanted to start your holiday cards in July, it would be pretty to paint like, more of a branches of something like holly or pine or something like that with the silver on the black. It would be really pretty. And then add your Christmas greeting. But I'm just making a thank you card because that's what I need. Lots of thank you cards to say thank you with. So then after I had painted them all silver, then now, of course, I've got that sparkly, opaque paint in the background. Then I can go over and make some little washes of colors over the top and make it more bright and colorful. So I started at the top with some yellow and then blended it down to orange. Then the next section I did orange blended to red, and then the last section I did red blended to purple. So they're not perfect. It looks like I've brushed them on, which I did. And with the other one, with just the petals going out and out and out and out in a circle or whatever they are, rays or petals, I considered taking a black pen and cleaning up the edges, and I thought, you know what, it looks painted and it should look painted because I painted it. So why should I go and change that by adding lines? Why should I? So I didn't. So it doesn't look perfect, you know, but it's not perfect. It's painted. So I put a second layer of some of the colors on to brighten them up a little bit because as they dried, they started to dull. I put a few splatters on there with the silver as well, just to kind of make the background more interesting. And then I got this silver cardstock. It's a brushed metallic silver heavy cardstock. Cut the page in half to make 2 card backs and glued on these 2 painted pieces onto those using some tacky glue because these are both heavy papers. The black watercolor paper probably wouldn't stay down with just a tape or something or a glue stick onto this other heavy paper. I'll be mailing these out to, I think I've got 4 mailings to do this month, so I'll be mailing them out to 2 of those people. Then I got out my Posca pens and I just made some illustration lines on this ATC with the black. I just thought the foreground needed a little bit of illustration lines. I could have done it with black paint and the brush, but I guess I was tired of painting and so I got the pen out instead. So that's a acrylic over the top in those a few little illustration lines. And then for this last one, I was like, what am I going to do? I don't know. And so I thought it needed, I don't know, something. So I got out a stamp and I thought, oh, I'll stamp with black over the top of the watercolor and that should show up. Well, it kind of did, but it wasn't as dramatic as I wanted. So then I thought, okay, well, I'll go over the top of it with a black pen and make it more black. Well, it didn't. It just made it the same. It didn't change anything. So then I decided to go over it with the white so that it would really stand out from the background. These are some sketchy flowers. I could have just drawn that. I didn't really need the stamp, but I don't know. I like that stamp, and so I thought it would be fun to stamp it. Then I decided to put a couple gemstones in the center, just something sparkly on the card, because everything is very matte on this one. The Koi watercolors dried down matte, not shiny like the Gamze Tambai from Kiritaki. So they are definitely matte. I thought it'd be nice to have something sparkly. So then I got out my little Prism die cut machine and a thank you die and a scrap of that silver paper, that silver cardstock, and I cut out thank you a couple different times on the silver. And then I have a new glue thing that Peg sent me. It's from Nouveau. And I got the hang of it by the 4th piece I glued on. It says it's supposed to be for smooth application of glue, and so I was trying to just draw the glue on. But what I figured out is it's got a tip that depresses and then pops back out to make like a dot. So you just put little dot, 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 dot. Just press, 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 and then you get just a tiny bit of glue on these teeny tiny die cuts. Because, you know, these things are always a pain to glue down because you get glue all over everything. It's hard to put it on something so thin. So this worked well for attaching the die cuts to the card once I figured out how to do it right. It took me a minute, but I figured it out. The first couple, I squeezed it because it has a squeezy bit, right? Squeezed it, and then a whole bunch of glue came out, so then I had to blot it off. And yeah, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Please remember to give me a thumbs up and a comment and a question or whatever you want down below the video. That helps other people find me. Thanks. Bye-bye.